This is Matrixlord 212, and on this edition of Morning with Matrixlord, we talk today about Murray Gold. Now, Murray Gold has made the soundtrack for Doctor Who Series 1 all the way to the present, and currently he is developing Song for 50, which is the 50th anniversary soundtrack for Doctor Who, as well as he's developing right now the 12th Doctor's theme music and the theme for Series 8. So I think it's wonderful that he's going to be continuing with Doctor Who. That is always, when you hear his music, it's like perfection. It fits with the series, and if you didn't have Murray Gold, then the show would be not what it is. I mean, he really brings something to the table for Doctor Who. He really puts his best effort in there, and it is like listening to classical music. It is beautiful, okay? Another thing that came out the other day was, as I made a video already, was Stephen Moffat. And Stephen Moffat is constantly talking in the circles about how he always knew that Matt Smith was leaving, and that was always Plan A, but that he always tried to get him to stay for an additional year, and Matt almost signed for 2 years, I believe, but he never got him to do it. And I think the problem is that Moffat himself had a plan to answer all the questions in 2 more years, and now with Matt Smith leaving, no matter what Moffat does, it just will never end on a good note, I don't think. As much as I love Stephen Moffat's stories, as much as I had credited him in the past as being a genius and everything else, it just took too long for him to answer the questions. You can't expect a fan to hold on for like 5 years or whatever have you to find an answer to a question. Some of these series takes like a year or 2 or 3. This guy has still never answered the majority of questions we have. Stuff like, why is Amelias House bigger and so huge just for Amelia and her parents? It's been, I've been trying to research it, and then we learn, okay, maybe the aunt lives there, but still it's absolutely huge for that amount of family. And then I was thinking, well, maybe there was someone else that was living there, another child, maybe the father's sister's child, which would be maybe his cousin, or maybe she had a sister that went through the cracks, or something that wasn't put back right, or whatever. A lot of speculation, of course. And then it came up with Rory Williams' name badge. Why it said 1990, obviously to zoom in on it and to showcase it. It is not a mistake, because you would fix that in the editing process. You would fix that in the end. And another thing is why Roy Williams kept dying over and over. Now, the way Moffat explained it is that he killed everybody over and over again, just to show that Roy Williams wasn't special in that way. I mean, fans were speculating that maybe he was the Master's child with Lucy Saxon. Maybe she was pregnant, and before she went into that prison and everything, she gave birth and hid the baby away. I had speculated that. I speculated that maybe, he was something else other than human. And maybe it wasn't that, people tampered with the genetic engineering of the baby, that maybe he was a Time Lord. But that didn't turn out to be true. Then, a lot of crazy things, like how, Amy's Ganger would survive in the TARDIS out of the universe, like projected. I mean, that is like beyond belief too. That the whole time she's a Ganger even in another universe or whatever. Outside the universe. The voice in the TARDIS. Who controlled the TARDIS? Did the Doctor take apart the TARDIS to get whatever it was in there out of there? And if the Doctor did take apart the TARDIS and rebuild the TARDIS, then how could that entity still be in there? That's another issue. Is the Dream Lord still in the TARDIS? Is the Dream Lord still in, still part of Doctor Who? I mean, does he have substance? Is he part of the Doctor? I mean, is he gone? I don't think he's gone. Who is the villain that had started this all? Why did Prisoner Zero have psychic ability to see the future and the Doctor doesn't? She's like, the Doctor and the TARDIS doesn't know who started the cracks. The Pandorica. She knew all this stuff. Like, why? And silence will fall. Never explained the silence. The silence were one thing when they were mentioned. And it was said that the cracks... See, that's another thing. The cracks definition has changed so much. And to Stephen Moffat, I believe everybody's underneath him. Like, he thinks, he knows the answer in his head. So because he knows the answer, everybody else is supposed to just know, like, oh yeah, okay. No. He doesn't communicate with everyone to tell everybody the real definition of the cracks. And he expects people, if they can't figure it out, then they're not a genius like him. Explain it, okay? Explain how Matt Smith's Doctor is so concerned about the cracks flipping out and everything, and then you just pop the crack back in there and Journey to Center TARDIS, and it's no big deal. Explain how when the Doctor first opened the crack in 11th Hour, that he saw a prison. And, that crack led to a prison. So it didn't lead to, oh my God, you go through there and you're erased. How does this definition change? What causes it to change? When the crack is first opened, does it go to the prison? Does it go to an alternate universe? Does it become something else later on? And then they said, that the vampires in Venice, they ran from the silence, that they made it sound like they were all from different universe. The Star Whales from a different universe, the Silence, the Vampires in Venice. So fans are speculating, thinking, oh, okay, this is cool. Like, what's going on in this other universe? And then we get thrown for a loop because then, we finally see the Silence. Well, actually, forget about that. Go to Pandorica. Somebody had gotten all these bad guys together to form an alliance. And there's no way that the Sontaran's going to be knocking on a Dalek's door or a Cyberman door and say, let's team up. Somebody manipulated them together. Was it Omega? Was it the Master? Was it the Valyard or the Dream Lord? Never explained. Never explained how, when the universe ceased to be, I see the Daleks are popping around because of the Pandorica, but what happened to all the other races? Did they take off? Because obviously there wasn't statues of Cybermen and everything else, so obviously they ran away. So what happened with those from the Alliance? Another thing, in that other universe, it was talked about all these damaged TARDIS and stuff like that, and there's an Ood there, so has the Ood evolved so much that they traveled beyond the universe? When are we going to see the Ood again? They also made reference in The Doctor's Wife to a Time Lord changing sex and regeneration and becoming a female, becoming even more of a threat. And he was kind of praying that he was going to bump into her. That wasn't revealed either, who that Time Lord was. And it's also the thing with Amy Pond. They said something about radiation from the cracks have made her time sensitive, where even if the universe was altered, she'd be able to see glimmers of that other timeline. So, who else did this affect? Obviously, Rory Williams couldn't remember anything in the winning River Song. River Song obviously knew everything. Madame Corvarian was there, and then she died. But what was Madame Corvarian's purpose? How did Madame Corvarian begin? What made her become a villain? What made her hate the Doctor so much that she had to be part of the Silence and part of the Headless Monks and part of the clergy to get the Doctor? what caused her to, you know, like who caused the baby to be genetically engineered to be a Time Lord, to train the kid, to make the kid brainwashed, to kill the doctor. Who is behind it? Okay, that was never revealed. It was never revealed why the silence was so dead set against making sure the doctor dies on Lake Silencio or Solico, whatever, and Lake Silencio Lake. Like why they didn't appear on Trenzalore? Why did they just give up? Even though the doctor made them visible, why was it such a big deal for them to make sure the doctor never reached Trenzalore and say his name? And then when it came to Trenzalore, you didn't see one silence whatsoever. That was disturbing. Like, it makes no sense. Why did the doctor leave a weeping angel in New York City? And if Moffat thinks that he don't have to answer, because he doesn't answer, makes him look bad. Okay, and he may think, "Oh, I don't have to answer to these lowly fans." Wrong. Okay, you people don't want Moffat to answer the questions in an interview. People want Moffat to answer questions in an episode, because when he answers the questions in an episode, that is canon, as they say. When he says it, it doesn't really count because he's lied so much. How could you believe him? Okay, so when I hear, the weeping angels, how did the Statue of Liberty walk around? Well, they're so powerful that they create dimensions, and that's nonsense. Okay, you need to explain some things, and a proper explanation. Use your writing genius and figure out something that's really constructive and cool. But for the doctor to leave a weeping angel in New York City makes no sense. Especially since the weeping angel was left where it could become so powerful that it could take over New York City again. With the exception with David Tennant's time, where they were all wrapped around each other, where they can never move because they're looking at each other constantly. I just don't understand it. I don't understand the Daleks. I don't understand how you can bring Daleks and victory to Daleks. Then there's only one of them or two of them. Then you have the Parliament of the Daleks, where they're a bunch of politicians, and they really suck. I mean, they're not. It was awesome to see that, but they're not really war Daleks or built for combat, because they're just talking to death. And